There were two spirits. You would normally call them angels. And in the middle, they had my brother's spirit with them.
Hi, this is the Quickening Podcast, and I'm Marcia Torres-Leija. Today we're going to talk about angels and spirit guides. It's kind of my favorite subject, only because I know a little bit about it, just because I've been trying to practice on it for a while now, and I learned a lot of stuff along the way. Later, I want to tell you about which angels do what, like which ones you can call for like health and healing or miracles or stuff you want to start with your career, all those things. I'm going to give you specific names on which ones you can call and also how to do it. I have a little bit experience with both just because I've experienced spirit guides and I've experienced angels. So a spirit guide can mean like a whole lot of stuff for a whole lot of people depending on their faith. To me, what a spirit guide means is because of my heritage and my ethnicity, I associate spirit guides with relatives that have passed. So like ancestors. It could be somebody that I've met or somebody that I've never met, but to me it's just like lineage. That's what spirit guides means to me. And the very first experience I've ever had with a spirit guide was it was by accident. It was like 5 years ago. I was going through a lot because both my boys had just been diagnosed with autism, and it was in that weird stage where we were trying to get them like every therapy possible. So you're talking about 2 sets of therapy, and 3 times a week. And I had a full-time job, and it was like, on top of everything else, it's your babies, right? You want to know that they're going to be okay in the future. So I was going through like a weird, I want to be depressed, but I can't be depressed because I don't have time to be depressed time in my life. So it meant like a lot of late nights staying up in bed, wide awake, not being able to sleep, worrying about everything. And one night in particular, I was laying there and it was so quiet. My neighborhood is so quiet. There's like a lot of old people around here, so everybody goes to sleep early. And it was really quiet. And all of a sudden, one of the blinds next to my bed started like shaking a little bit. And I thought, well, do we have the fan on? No, we don't have the fan on. All right, well, I just ignored it. And then it started shaking a little more. And then I said, oh my God, it's the cuckoo. And I closed my eyes and I tried to make it go away. And when I closed my eyes, I saw a blue ring with my eyes closed, and instantly I thought of my aunt, because my aunt Kika, she gave us a ring. She gave me a ring. It was a blue ring, and it's the only blue ring I've ever seen. So I instantly thought of her, and when I thought of her in my mind with my eyes closed, the blinds started shaking really hard, like if wind had just passed through there, like shaking, and it made me open my eyes. And when I opened my eyes, the blind stopped immediately, like if somebody had put their hands on there and like stopped them. I was like, right away, I tucked my toes and my feet under the blanket like a burrito, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then I started laughing, because the reason that I did that was because my aunt, when I was little, she used to tell me, when I die, I'm going to come back and I'm going to pull your toes so that you'll know it's me, and I'm always going to be with you to protect you. And I was laughing because I knew, I just knew that's what was happening. And it was a comforting thing, because I thought, well, that's nice. She's here. I don't know why I was okay with it, but I was. And especially because she was like a very mothering person to me. So then, like a month or 2 later, I started working on a show about ghosts. And one of the intuitives that was working on that show, I told everybody on that show, don't try and give me readings. I don't like that. Don't invite spirits into my house, because we used to meet before we used to go on shoots. We used to meet at my house just to have like a meeting place, and then we would all, camera people, everybody would go together to the shoot locations. So I would tell you, if you're going to be in my house, I don't want anybody talking about spirits. I don't want anybody talking about ghosts. Don't be giving me readings. Don't be giving each other readings. I don't want to bring any of that stuff in my house. So everybody knew I wanted none of that. But one of the intuitives there, she felt comfortable enough to say, look, I just want to tell you, there's a beautiful lady. She's Hispanic and she's really pretty, and she wants you to know that she's always with you. And I was like, what? And she's like, she's got kind of hazel eyes. I was like, oh my God, it's my Aunt Kika. It's her. And that's like the first time I knew that I was right, you know. But instantly, again, I was in a different place. So I was like, okay, don't tell me anything else. Thank you. That's all I need to know. I don't want to talk about ghosts. Like, not in my house. let's leave it first when we're at somebody else's place. But I knew that that's who I had. So after that, it was more about being okay with her being around. After that, after you know that a spirit guide is with you and you know which one, then you have that familiarity to talk to them like if they're here, because they are here. So you start asking questions and you start saying, like, it's like if you're talking to yourself, right? You're like, well, what should I do about this? And what do you think I should do about that? And am I going crazy and this and that? And then slowly you start allowing yourself to receiving the answers intuitively. Like, slowly you start allowing yourself to, whatever you're thinking, that's coming from God, you know, through them. The way that I found out that that's true is because one day I was like meditating on something and I was thinking about something. I found out that I was abandoned at birth. So I was trying to figure out who my real mother is. Like, who is she? Like, I don't even know her name. I wonder where she's at. Is she still alive? All of these things. And I was thinking about it and I was like, well, my tia would know, because, you know, my tia and my mom were super close, my adoptive mom. So, and I started thinking about it, and then I thought of a phone number, like out of nowhere, a complete telephone number. And I wrote it down right away and I was like, what is this? And I called it, and turns out it was one of my oldest cousins that I haven't talked to in like 20 years. And he knew my real mother, and he gave me a bunch of information that I would have never had otherwise. And I was like, oh my God, God is real. Like, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you. And it's just things like that make it hard to deny that these things are real. I've also seen an angel, and it's not like the cute, fat, little fluffy things with wings that you see in pictures, and it's to me. And it wasn't like a giant thing that looks beautiful and is like ethereal. That's not how it appeared to me. And honestly, I wasn't even expecting it, and I wasn't even asking for it. I was hiking one day, and I go to a hiking trail that's close to here, and it's a really steep, rocky trail. And because it's so hard to climb, there's hardly any people there. But this day I went there because I wanted to get away and I wanted to think and pray, because the people at my church, they're like eons and miles and so ahead of me spiritually. Like, they're amazing, and they speak in tongues, and apparently speaking in tongues is like a thing that you can do to tap into the spirit and make it easier for you to like receive things, receive God, basically. And I was trying so hard to learn how to speak in tongues and basically participate. And I couldn't. I'm too in my brain. Like, I have to. I want to understand what I'm saying, so that makes me stop and hinder like the flow of the tongues. So I was really frustrated with it, and then I was like, what's wrong with me? I'm never gonna do it. I was hiking and I was like crying at this point, and I'm like, oh, what's the matter with me? I'm never gonna allow myself to know these things. And I'm like hiking and crying, and then I turn a bend, and standing there was this beautiful man. He looked like Jack from Three's Company, like, but beautiful. Like, I mean, his skin was flawless, and he was like dressed like in 1980s aerobics clothes, orange, like bright orange, and he had a sweatband on his head, and he had sweatband on his wrists, and he had these little cute little shorts, and they were orange, and he had like this beautiful face, and which made me think instantly, like, oh my God, did I just step into like somebody's camera shot? Like, are they shooting a show, or are they shooting like a movie around here? Because it's LA, right? It happens out here. So I looked and I'm like, oh my God, did I just mess up somebody's camera shot? And there was nobody there. And then this man, I guess a man, he was looking at me with like this huge smile, like, there you are, kind of a deal, like, finally you got up here. And I was like, should I say hi? And then he looked at me straight in the eye, and then he says, don't give up, you can do it. And I was like, I was so confused. I was like, wait, before I embarrassed myself, I looked around again, and I made sure that I wasn't like, he wasn't saying a line in a movie or something that I'm interrupting. And I looked around again, and then when I looked back, he was gone, like, poof. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was an angel. And instantly I thought that was an angel. And then I ran ahead to see if I could see him walking down the hill, just to make sure it wasn't a person. And there was nobody there for miles. Like I was at the top, so I could tell when there's people around, and there was nobody there. And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. I saw an angel. I knew it was an angel because of the way I felt, because of the way he looked. There's like nobody in this world that could look like that. That's just impossible. He's just beautiful. And also because of what he said, like, in that moment, I needed that. I needed somebody to tell me that eventually I'll get there. Just don't give up. And that was beautiful to me. And they're not always going to look the way we expect them to look. Like, they're not going to be always white. They're not always going to have like beautiful blonde hair. They're not going to have jawlines that you're jealous of. Like, that's just not going to be the case all the time. Specifically ethnicity, and I'll tell you more about that later. David here had his own experience with an angel, and my God, he was lost for over 5 hours in the middle of the night. It was super dark. He was in a foreign land with nobody around for miles and miles and miles and miles to come and help him. He couldn't even scream for help. And then something happened. David, tell us your story.
My name's David Hartford, and I'm from Los Angeles, and I'm 49. Back in the 90s, I taught English in Japan. I went to this awesome shrine. It's called Yasaka Shrine. And, this really ancient shrine with all these like bells that you ring and like little mini shrines. It's in a forest right next to, it's near the subway station, but it's also right in front of this big forested mountain. So I went there in the afternoon, checked out this temple, walked around, walked behind the temple. There was like more temples, like hidden temples. So I just like, or shrines and temples. Like whoa, there's another one. So so I kept walking behind the temple towards the mountain, deeper into the forest. I went farther back. I checked out these little shrines and temples, and by this time, like, most of these places there was like nobody around. All the tourists were closer to the main one, so like nobody was back here. And I'm winding my way up this trail, and I'm losing track of time. And it's starting to get towards late afternoon. It's getting a little darker, but I didn't have any flashlight on me or extra food or anything, so I kept going. And then some clouds started. This is true. Some clouds started rolling in, because actually July is actually the rainy season in Japan. It's like the monsoon season, and I mean, you get storm. Yeah, you can get some serious storms. And they must have been coming in from like behind the mountain, because I didn't even notice them rolling in, but they started coming in pretty fast. And so I'm like, okay, I guess it's kind of time to work out a strategy here, because it is getting kind of darker now, and looks like some clouds are rolling in. So I just kind of stayed there for 5-10 minutes thinking, okay, what's the plan here? Although I was stupid enough to go up there in the method that I did with no preparation, at least at this point I'm like, okay, probably trail's too dangerous at this point, just because there's no lights on the trail. It's going to be pitch black. Might have to sleep in the wilderness tonight, and I'd really rather not do that. And there could be some animals I don't know about, but I mean, I was in the forest on a mountain in pouring rain in the darkness with a vague idea of where this road was going. So I mean, that was pretty unnerving. Okay, believe this is totally true. Believe after, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, on my right, boom, I come around, and it's a twisty 2-lane mountain road. On my right, out of nowhere, boom, there's this gorgeous temple. You know, it's built in the old style, but it looks very shiny. And there's this Buddhist monk out front, and that guy seemed to appear out of nowhere. Why is he hanging out in front of the temple at night? Is anybody gonna go there at night? He was kind of like an angel, or maybe put there by the divine. And he says, you ride? I said, oh, you have car? You have a car? And and he says, this is true. He says, yes, look, car. And there's this like some brand new like red sports car. He's like, please get in. And so he's like, yeah, I drive you. Okay. So, oh, thank you very much. And in 5 minutes, on the driving, in 5 minutes, we were back in the town. And so I said, domo arigatou gozaimashita. Thank you very much. And he said, you are welcome. So I said, thank you, bye-bye. And he said, bye-bye. And he turned around and he drove back up the mountain, and then I was safe.
That's so awesome. And that's not even the first time. Dave, tell us about that time when you were 4 years old and you had your first experience of divine intervention.
My dad's like, hey, do you want to go up to Mount Baldy, which is a beautiful local mountain here? And I was like, yeah, let's go. He said, it's pretty close, so we'll be there soon. So we're driving up there, and I was like, wow, this is really, look at all these pine trees, and it's this twisty 2-lane mountain road, and it's gorgeous. So yeah, we did our little hike for an hour. No big deal. Had a picnic by the river. After the hike, we hiked back down to the parking lot, and time to go home. So we're getting ready to get in the car, and it's a 2-door car, but it's a normal 4-seater. I guess it's a 2-door sedan, and I just got this like flash, like, yeah, I want to sit in the back seat, Dad. It's just the two of us, right? I was like, I want to sit in the back seat. And he's like, what? I don't think I had ever made that request before. I think I just always naturally rode shotgun. It was just like, I don't know, it gets a weird feeling. Let me sit in the back seat. He's like, okay. So we start driving down the road, and everything's normal, and we're driving down this, twisty 2-lane mountain road, and so we're about maybe 2/3 of the way down the road, and then all of a sudden there's this rock just goes straight through the windshield and hits the front passenger seat, and then the windshield, like massive hole through that side of the windshield, and cracks and everything. I think the whole windshield still stayed intact, but there was just a massive hole, glass everywhere, especially on the passenger front seat and floor. And the funny thing is, I don't even remember being like scared about that incident. So anyways, he pulls over, we're like dusting ourselves off, and we step out of the car for a few minutes, and he's like, okay, well, I guess we're okay. Because those rocks, I think they're granite and quartz, and they're really, really jagged and sharp and strange shapes. They're not just like a smooth stone. So yeah, it could have smashed my neck. It could have blinded me. It could have gotten glass in my eye. It could have killed me. It could have injured me. It could have injured him too. These amazing things can happen in one's life. The protection from danger. One can be divinely protected from danger, and and then also one can be given amazing experiences with divine guidance. So yeah, I believe in God, and I believe God will work through miracles to save you and to bless you. So I think the important thing is to just believe in God and believe that, be open to God's miracles in your life, and they will bless you in a variety of ways.
Thanks, David. Sam has a little more experience with angels and spirit guides. He's more intuitive, so he recognizes them more, and he's seen them longer. Sam, tell us about the very first time you saw an angel.
My name is Sam Clowder. I'm 70 years old now, and I live in the Venice area of Los Angeles. I was born and reared in Houston, Texas, and I have learned to regard the disembodied spirits that come to me as either spirit guides or spirits that need help. And the most drastic experience of my life was my younger brother. He was 11 years younger than me, and he suffered a lot of emotional trauma from my parents and became an alcoholic. And at the age of 38, he died in a remote location from alcoholism. And we didn't know that. He was missing for 89 days. And the Houston police had a search ongoing throughout Canada, United States, and Mexico. In the end, they found his decaying body 100 yards from a jail station that he'd been released from. What happened for me was, about 2 weeks before they found his body, I was sitting in church. At the time, I was a Southern Baptist, and I got a message, and I turned around and I looked over my left shoulder to the corner of the church. There were two spirits. You would normally call them angels. And in the middle, they had my brother's spirit with them. And he was so confused. He didn't know what was going on. But I felt that they came to me. The angels brought him to me just to see that they had control of his spirit, and that although he was confused, he would eventually work it out and move on to whatever eternity he had in front of him that would not be disturbed, that would not be so confused. In this case, at this time, I was married, and my wife had been very sensitive and to my paranormal phenomena, but she'd never experienced them herself. She'd get intuition. A lot of people call this intuitions, and it really is a reality. My wife was sitting to my left. I turned around and looked. She turned around and looked, and she saw something too. She saw some lights and some spirits. And that was really the most emotional and personal experience of my life. There have been many others. There was a time when I was from 1973 to 75, I was accused of a very big drug crime, and I was entrapped into it. And in Orange County, I was trying to prove entrapment, and the odds against me were 700 to 1. But I knew that I was not guilty, so I wouldn't accept a plea bargain. Well, before we sent jury in, I'll never forget this. Before we sent the jury in, I'm just on 1975, I was 24 years old. I heard some sounds behind me, and it was like a happy reunion in 3 or 4 different kinds of voices that only I could hear. Now, I was facing the judge, so I couldn't turn around and look at that time. But there were 6 entities, and I have an intuition of who they were. And they were spirit guides that have been with me and have come to me in moments of extreme danger. And when we dismissed the jury a few minutes later, they came around in front of me and they filed in behind the jury. And they went into that jury room and they didn't come out. The jury did. The jury deliberated for 8 days. Now, there were 6 entities that left. And the first ballot of that jury was 6-6. The second ballot was 7-5 in favor of acquittal. And they locked at that for 8 days before the charges were dismissed. I have fortunately transcended and survived maybe, I don't know, I haven't really done a quantitative count, but 9 or 10 life experiences that would have destroyed other people. And the only way I've made it through was by calling on spirit guides and listening to them and having them flow through my mind, my heart, my body, and my intuition to make the right decisions in conflicting situations. I would be dead several times over if it were not for my spirit guides.
Honestly, I think I would have seen an angel a whole lot sooner if I wouldn't have been so scared. I think that's what hinders me a lot actually in my spiritual life. I hear something, so I have to turn and see, or I feel something and I have to look. And I think that kind of messes me up a lot. I'm too scared actually. So what can I do to not psych myself out? Like, how can I prepare myself better so that I'm able to receive it when an angel wants to talk to me, or a spirit guide or spirit?
The key to it is to let go of the attachment to the physical world and to live moment to moment in one's own spiritual center. It's there to help you. It's there to warn you of an impending conflict or danger. It's there to advise you. It's there to be your friend. And I'm going to tell you, there are far more spirits, just spirits, that are positive in this way than are negative. Many people don't realize this. One of the terms is your guardian angel. What are you going to do? Kick your guardian angel out of the house? Just because you're afraid of it? When I was about 4 years old, I saw something moving that nobody else saw. And I didn't know what it was. It was, kind of a mishmash of very light, just like a mist, like bubbles in a mist that were very, very, didn't have a lot of light, but it looked like it was something, like kind of a small ball. And so I turned to my mother and my father. They didn't see it. And I kept saying, but it's there. Don't you see it? Don't you see it? No, they didn't see it. And that was the very first experience I had. I don't know, the significance of that was just that I saw it and nobody else did. And instead of believing them that it didn't exist, I believed me that it did exist. And that made all the difference in my life, really. You mentioned Jesus. I'm going to tell you that I have always considered Jesus one of my spirit guides. I call on them when I need them to come. For me, it's part of life. I'm fortunate that probably the greatest love of my life, a woman who passed in a horrible one-person untimely auto accident in 1979, came back to me as a spirit guide. And she came to me and she was with me up until 2011, when she asked me to let her go, and I did. She hasn't been with me ever since. My very best friend of all time, named Scott, we were friends for 50 years, and he passed away in Salem, Oregon, a year ago November. And he came to me as a spirit guide just recently. And he visits me every once in a while. You fear the fact that you are not prepared to handle it, that you're scared, that you're disoriented, that you've never faced a situation like this before. Relax. It's all part of the universe. Turn it around. Change your fear into love, and you will gain power over your own life, your own psyche in a way that you've never had before.
Thanks, Sam. So one of the things that I've found that helps me to condition my brain to tap into listening better to spirit guides or angels, even God, honestly, is I have to meditate. So like if you work out, you know, you get your water ready, you take time to like set your towel up, or you get your music ready, and then you like psych yourself up to like get on the treadmill and go through the punishment. Well, it's kind of like, not punishment, but it's kind of like the same thing when you're trying to receive messages from the unseen and the unheard, right? So you have to condition your brain to like calm down. So what I do is I meditate. What I have to do is I have to go in my room. I have to lock the door. Like there's no question about it. I have to lock the door because I don't want my kids or my dogs or my husband to like just barge in there like they usually do, asking me for something. So I lock my doors. On my phone, I queue up one of those white noise videos, and what works best for me is water sounds, so like creeks or rivers, or you know, those just like those 10-hour sleeping white noise videos. Like I have to set one of those up. And then I'm also very like I like smelling pretty things, so like I'll burn an incense or something nice just to set the mood. And then what I do is I lay down in my bed and I close my eyes. I set the lights really low and I close my eyes. And then I allow myself to just calm down and just relax and listen to the sound. And then you have to be very specific during meditation about what you want to know. So you can't just lay there and expect like a voice from beyond to just be like, hey, this is me trying to help you. It's not going to happen like that. It's in your brain. It's like when God's trying to talk to you. You're not going to hear an audible sound unless you're a prophet. And if you are, what are you doing watching me? You should be doing your own thing. It's not an audible thing. It's in your mind and it's in your spirit. So like for that, you have to really quiet yourself to hear it. And then also another thing is you have to trust what you hear. So like the time I heard the phone number, I wasn't like, what? Is it just in my brain? When you do that, you kind of like shut yourself off. So just like shut up in your brain and just listen, and then be specific about what you want. So like I was very specific that I wanted to know more about my mom, and then that's what I received. So like if you want to know, you know, should I be doing this? Okay, well, should I go to this interview tomorrow? Is it a good idea? Is it going to even help me? And then be specific about what you ask, and then be quiet. And then anything, no matter how small, even if you see, you know, in your mind, you see a squirrel, write it down. Put it in a journal, write it down. Because when you're new to all of these things, you get tidbits of information because that's all your brain can accept at a time. So you get like little hints and clues. And sometimes, for me, at least at the beginning, it was a lot of pictures, like a lot of symbols. So like I said, okay, well then, if it's going to be like that, God, when you want to tell me something about my mom, you know, show me, you know, food, because that's what she's amazing at. Or if you want to show me something about my mother-in-law, you know, ladybugs, because she loves ladybugs. So like I made time to like set up symbols in my heart so that God knows what to show me. That way I'll know at least like hints, because it's like Pictionary. It's not, when you're starting and you're not really good at being an intuitive like I am, I'm just like not great at it. I need like hints. Like, give me a hint. And then but you have to, they can show you a billion hints and then you will never know what it means, because you don't know what it means. You just, to begin with, you don't know what they're trying to tell you. So if you set up things like that, for them to show you, then at least you'll have somewhere to start. Oh, you mean a ladybug? Are you trying to tell me something about my mother-in-law? Cool. Is she okay? Is she healthy? Does she need help? Blah, 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 blah. But don't like spit out a billion questions, because then you're not going to get the specific answer that you need. It's like talking to somebody that speaks a foreign language. You want to take it slow so that you understand what they're trying to tell you. So that was my experience for that, and that was wonderful, and it helped, and it's changed my life. But you really got to make time. It's like having a relationship with somebody. You have to make the time to make it about that. Stop and meditate. I find that it's better to do it when my kids are at school and my husband's at work, because that's the only time I have the house to myself, and the only ones that are here are the dogs, and I kick them out, and I just allow myself an hour to do that, because otherwise I would not have the time of the day and the whole day to do it. I also want to tell you about very specific angels that I have found helped me. And I'm going to be honest, the way that I learned about angels, like I didn't like go into the internet and like figure it out. I found that the best way to learn about angels and to learn how to communicate with them, I got a book from Kyle Gray. His name is Kyle Gray. He's an author. And the reason that I liked him is I don't know what his faith background is, but I know that his meditations are God-based. So like specifically in the meditations, he calls to God. So that alone is a plus. So he taught me how to do the basics, like, you know, how do you prepare your body? How do you prepare your mind? You know, don't be eating this, don't do this, don't do that, kind of a deal, which kind of prepared me. It's kind of like Angels for Beginners. So I highly recommend you look up his book. And I think there's actually one specific book that I have that I love, and I still keep it in my phone, and it is called Angel Prayer Meditations by Kyle Gray. Look it up. It's amazing. It's like $5 on Amazon or Audible. So specific angels. I call on Angel Gabriel when I need help with my career. So he is specific with helping people in the arts. So like in writing or creating, or if I have to turn in a project or whatever, he's wonderful. He'll help me. He's also really good with technical stuff. So like computers and cameras and things like that I need to learn. He will help me learn that kind of stuff too. So a thing that happens when I do shows about ghosts and spirits and stuff like that is that technical like equipment tends to act up. So like my batteries will die all of a sudden, or like the tripod will start wiggling, or the lights will start not working. I call on Angel Gabriel to help me to like calm everything down and like not allow anything to interfere with my work. So another angel that I call on always is Angel Raphael. Angel Raphael is the angel of healing. So he was specifically detrimental with me when my mother-in-law used to live with me, because she had like a lot of ailments, and he helped me a lot because he showed me how to pray for her and how to lay hands on her and how to do things to help her just navigate through life with her body. And he's wonderful when you want to pray for, you know, your children to get healthier or whatever. He's great for anything to have to do with healing. Angel Raphael is amazing at that. He's also great at stuff with the heart. So like emotional stuff, he's amazing. When I'm feeling very overwhelmed, or I'm feeling like I'm mad at somebody and I can't let it go, or unforgiveness or whatever, he's great. He always helps me with that. Angel Metatron. Metatron is a very little known angel, but he's amazing and he's huge. And so when I'm starting something new, he's the one that I call on. He's kind of like the angel of creating miracles. Like if you want something that you know that you can't do on your own, obviously first always God, but he is like God's helper in that area, that he'll help you, that just like start something brand new. Like, okay, I don't even know how I'm going to get this loan. He'll help you. Or I don't even know how I'm going to create the show. He'll help you. Anything huge, big, again, always God first, but anything big that is new, he is the one to call, because he is the creation angel. He's good at a lot of other things too, but this is what I know. And the reason that I suggest them to you is because I know that they have responded to me and they've helped me, and they're amazing, and they're God sent, specifically by God. Always put God first. Never call on angels first. Always call on God first. So what I do when I'm going to meditate and ask for help from an angel is, first and foremost, I say, God, protect me. Make sure that you form a protective bubble around me, and make sure that you don't let anything in, so that what I do hear, I know it's from you or an angel, and I know that it's not from something else trying to make noise while I'm trying to hear from you. And I ask for God's protection first, and I pray to him, and I thank him for being with me, and I thank him for providing angels to me, and I thank him for his grace and for his blessings. And then I say, okay, Angel Gabriel, I need this or I need that, whatever. And always with respect, because they're not your buddies, they're angels, and their hierarchy matters and respect matters. So don't be like, hey dude, give me it. No, be like, have respect for them because they're sent by God. Never worship angels. It's never okay to set up altars to angels. It's not something that you should do, just because even they say in the Bible, don't worship me. God is who you should worship. We're just here as your brother and to help you, kind of a deal. It's okay to be thankful and grateful and say thank you and I appreciate your help, but don't worship them. Don't, if you are one of those lucky people that sees one in person, don't it's hard to say don't fall on your knees, because who wouldn't fall on their knees if something that God sent is in front of you? But you know what I mean? Don't worship them. Just don't hold them higher than God, and you'll be fine. And always remember to not allow your brain to decide what God wants to do to talk to you. Don't let your brain convince you that you have it all figured out and it's God or nothing, Jesus or nothing, and that's just the way it is. Because listen, it's not the way it is. That God is immense, he's wonderful, and he has very mysterious ways. So as long as you trust him and you pray to him first and you thank him and you're grateful, he's going to help you with different people, different spirit guides, different ways. For now, this is all we have. Next time, we're going to talk about dreams. That's another thing. I was so bad at hearing from God that he literally had to talk to me when I was passed out in my sleep, because I was so afraid to hear any other way. So he would talk to me in my dreams, and that is so important. He still talks to me in my dreams, vivid, detailed things that happened that I know are going to happen now, or it's crazy. I want to tell you so much. This is going to be the next episode. We're going to have an expert on our show that's going to tell us, if you see this, it means that, that kind of a deal. And she's also going to tell us, she's going to teach us how to learn how to decipher our own dreams. So that's going to be awesome. Don't miss that. That's going to be next episode. For now, this is all we have. Thank you for joining us. Go find yourself a Bible-based church. There's hundreds out there to choose from. Just try a bunch of them out and see which one feels like home to you. And God will speak to you directly through men of God. Don't forget to come back next week. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we'll see you next time.